Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to do something either monumentally stupid or monumentally awesome. We're about to play Twilight Imperium, possibly the one of the most famous or infamous board games of all time. Notorious for how long this game is, how complicated it is, and how absolutely epic it is. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be documenting kind of each turn, just summarizing, recording a short summary of what happened in each turn of our game of Twilight Imperium, and basically how did the grand narrative of the game pan out. And I hope you enjoy. Set up, we're ready to begin. Here's the galaxy, very barren looking Mechatol Rex in the middle. And the races are as follows. I'm playing the L1Z1X Minenet. Another player is playing as the Emirates of Hakan. He is Khajiit. He has wares. Then we've got the Space Nerds with the Universities of Jolnar. Yeah, Byron's playing the University of Jolnar. He's the Space Nerds with a lot of firepower. Over here we've got Eugenio, who is playing the Space Spies. So he's very sneaky. Also has a lot of ships, I mean. And we're just going to move over here to our last player, Hamad, who is playing as the heroic Federation of Sol. And there's his starting fleet. There's a nice wall here between the Israel tribes and the Federation of Sol. And a nice supernova over there between the Emirates of Hakan and my Space Borg. And now we are ready to take our first turn. Okay, so end of the first turn. Everyone is being very peaceful, just spreading out. Most civilizations spread out to two neighboring systems, with university spreading only to one. But the University of Jolnar and the Israel tribes have something going on there. They're definitely plotting something, maybe involving this wormhole over here. And so far no one is getting close to Mechatol Rex, and that is the end of the first turn. Okay, and we are now at the end of turn 2. Again, not much is happening. There's some maneuvering here and there. There were some agreements between the L1Z1X and the Emirates of Hakan to kind of let the Emirates walk into this system over here. Quite a lot of aggressive expansion by the university on this turn, as well as pretty aggressive expansion by the Solar Federation. Mechatol is still very empty, and no one is flying towards it. So that is the end of turn 2, and players have now scored. Some players have scored public objective number 1, and another public objective has been revealed, which should benefit the Emirates of Hakan quite a lot. And we are now starting turn 3. Okay, and we are now in turn 4. Turn 3 just finished. Both the Hakan Emirates and the University of Jolnar finished a public objective, spending trade goods. Meanwhile, on the board, some very aggressive move by Federation of Sol, breaking a treaty between the L1Z1X Minenet and the humans. And big force buildup by the university and the Israel tribes. Meanwhile, Hakan is just generating lots of trade and being pretty peaceful. That is the end of the third turn, and Mechatol Rex is still pretty clear of anyone. And with that, we're heading into fourth turn. Okay, and we are now at the end of round 4? 3. Yeah, sorry, end of round 3. Still no fighting, but there was a big standoff between the forces of L1Z1X MindNet and the Sol Federation. However, both forces were exhausted and diplomacy was played, so there was no fighting. Meanwhile, first aggressive move towards Mechatol Rex was taken by the University, as was fairly predictable. Sol built up some forces, maybe for invasion of the MindNet. We'll see. And again, the Israel tribes are just building up their forces. On this turn, actually, everyone finally moved off the 0 on the objective track by completing certain objectives. So there you have the objectives that were filled, and we are now entering round 4, and hopefully this round we're going to see some actual dice rolling and fighting. So should be exciting. Okay, and we are at the end of round 4, where some monumental upheavals took place. First of all, the Treasures Federation of Sol attacked the L1Z1X fleet, completely wiping it out due to some, well, bad rolls and excellent action card play, and some excellent rolls by the Federation of Sol. Wave to the audience. At the same time, a ghost ship from the Emirates of Hakar just jumped out of the wormhole for no particular reason.
They have skooma.
And seeing that the Federation of Sol was occupied elsewhere, the sneaky Israel tribes made their move, taking over whatever that planet is called.
Mexar Xolo.
Thank you. They jumped through the asteroid field using their newfound technology and took over that planet. But possibly the biggest thing on the board is the Warsun. There it is. There's the Warsun, and it is sitting on Mechatol Rex, claimed by the University of Jolnar. Massive fleet there. Warsun, lots of troops, lots of fighters, but the Emirates of Hakan have also begun moving towards Mechatol Rex, which brings this round to a close. However, in this round, only one person scored a public objective, and no one has yet scored their secret objective. And that is the end of round 4, and we're going to be back with round 5 in a second. And end of round 5, actually fairly uneventful compared to the previous round of Titanic combat. Essentially what happened was the Federation of Sol fleet backed off, and thanks to diplomacy, they and the Israel tribes basically did not fight this round at all. Meanwhile, there's still a lot of maneuvering over here by the Emirates of Hakan, and the University of Jolnar really shored up their defenses at Mechatol Rex with extra PDS and fighters and such. And everyone actually scored objectives for this round because they were very easy objectives to score. And that brings us to round 6. End of round 6. Quite a bit of happening, not a lot of battles except for one, where basically University of Jolnar and the Emirates of Hakan were basically swapping objectives, with University moving off Mechatol, the Hakan moving onto Mechatol and scoring their secret objective. Meanwhile, very, very weak battle between basically a carrier and some planetary defense systems, with very little happening on the Hakan homeworlds. But big news over in Federation of Sol, where a wave of civil unrest basically stripped human control of Lore, Arnor, and Sakulag of the human influence. So losing 3 systems in the space of 1 round. Other than that, very little happened. Just again some forced buildup by the Israel tribes, and everybody scored objectives this round, including finally one secret objective by the Emirates of Hakan, and that concludes round 6. Okay, round 7 was an absolutely epic round with so much happening. We're going to begin our quick recap with, first of all, Federation of Sol attacked Mechatol Rex with possibly the biggest fleet on the board, and did so successfully, except they neglected to bring any ground forces aboard, which meant that they could not actually capture Mechatol Rex, and as a result, the Emirates of Hakan scored their diversified, I believe.
No, what was it? The Imperial.
Yes, the Imperial objective, and got a victory point anyway. So that was the first big thing that happened.
That's easy.
But
yeah, but I wouldn't have that.
Before the day was over, the Israel tribes continued their merciless attack on the humans, and yet, despite fierce action around the human homeworld of Jord, what happened was, even though they succeeded in landing troops on the human homeworld, the humans, in a heroic last stand, not only managed to blow up one of their ships, but actually managed to defeat the land forces landed by the Israel tribes, which was a surprise to everyone, to say the least. Not to be content with that, an absolutely epic battle happened over here, which was
between
Freya and something else. Abyss. Yes. And this was an absolutely enormous battle for the ages, where 2 huge fleets traded a lot of fighters without actually destroying each other's capital ships, followed by Israel tribes retreating. Then the University of Jolnar virus bombed Freya. Yeah, thank you. They virus bombed Freya into submission, and then attempted to land forces on Abyss. However,
that would have had 10 planets.
Yes, that would have given University 10 planets and actually a 10-point win. But because
the cowardly Yisrael,
what did they do?
They held the line.
They held the line. They played
thanks to Gen Synthesis.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks to Gen Synthesis and a really good play of dig in.
Yeah,
they dug in, survived the orbital bombardment, and then proceeded to destroy the invasion force brought by the University of Jolnar, which left the university with 1 out of 2 planets in the system, and not enough to actually win the game with 10 points. And basically where the game ended at this point, because we drew Imperium Rex, was with University in first place, in very close second, the Emirates of Hakan, then the Israel tribes, the L1Z1X MindNet, and finally the Federation of Sol, who kind of got dicked around by everyone in the game. And that brings us to the end of this absolutely epic battle of Twilight Imperium, and next we're going to have a little player impressions. Okay, hello Hamid.
Hello.
You played as the Federation of Sol, and you kind of were notorious in the game for being the first aggressor. What did you think of the overall game? What do you think of Twilight Imperium as a game?
It was good, but what's it called? I still prefer Game of Thrones.
So you still prefer Game of Thrones?
The board game, yeah.
All right. What was your favorite moment in this particular game?
destroying your entire army.
That's fair. That's fair. That was actually magnificently well done. Do you think you learned any valuable life lessons from this game?
Never trust you or Eugenia.
That sounds like a very good life lesson. Thank you, Hamad. Henny, you played as the Israel tribes, coming in a fairly close third. This was your first time playing Twilight Imperium, yes?
Yeah, yes it was.
And what did you think of the game?
It is actually fantastic. The mechanics are absolutely wonderful in terms of interaction because I noticed that each different type of civilization had their strengths and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
On my end, having to play as the cowardly golem-like race of goblinoids, basically, so what they look like, the biggest asset is having a massive stack of action cards. The only problem with that is that you have to be very lucky with what you draw, because here's the issue. At the beginning, I drew an enormous amount of battle cards, but during endgame, I started getting the really beneficial technology cards. But I got them on the 6th round, which was nobody took the technology policy, so obviously I couldn't play to any of that. So even though it's fun to play with them, be warned. They do come with that caveat. Okay, what was your favorite moment of this particular game? Definitely the Soul Federation's heroic standoff in their home planet. That was truly amazing, and the fact that my guys managed to survive through just basically technology. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks. Okay, and what would you say is your favorite moment in the game?
Vetoing your trade deal with
Okay.
economic blockade, because I was playing an economic race, and I feel like even though I wasn't able to do many things militarily, I was able to screw you guys over economically, and that gave me a great deal of joy and excitement and satisfaction.
Great. Okay. You play a lot of board games. Can you just give a quick impression of what did you think of the game? What did you like? What did you not like about the game?
If there's one thing I didn't like, it is the length. I'm not a big fan of very long games, but this one definitely made up for it, for the fact that the mechanics and the theme really meshed together. You could tell meaningful stories, and there's so many paths to victory, and you always feel like you're in the game. You're never really out of the game.
All right. Thank you very much. We have our winner, as Byron, playing as the University of Jolnar, as the Space Nerds, and absolutely crushing it. This is not your first time playing Twilight Imperium, is it?
No, this is my 4th.
Is it the first time you played as the University?
Yes.
So out of the 4 races you played so far, which one was your favorite?
I can't remember its name, but the one that starts with the Warsun.
So Warsun.
It's great to have an aggressive early start.
Okay. In this game, you weren't playing very aggressive early start.
No.
What was your overall strategy in this game?
To be as friendly as I can for as long as possible, and then eventually overtake everyone else.
Okay, well, it clearly worked out for you. What was your favorite moment in the game?
Favorite moment was the Soul Empire trying to take Mechatolrex without any ground units.
Okay, yes, that was a bit of an oversight on their parts. What would you say was your least favorite moment?
Least favorite moment was a little bit of the bullying towards the Soul Empire's retribution.
Okay. If you had to pick one best and one worst thing about Twilight Imperium, since you've played more games of it than anyone else here at the table, what would be your single best thing about the game and single worst thing about the game?
Best thing about the game is you'll be talking about it for the next 2-3 days. Worst thing about the game is some of the phases can take a little bit longer.
Okay. Thank you very much, Byron. And ladies and gentlemen, you have our winner of Twilight Imperium for today.
Yay!
And I decided to record my own impressions of the game a little bit later, just mostly due to time constraints, because some people had to run a bit early after our game of Twilight Imperium 3. So my impressions were that I really enjoyed the game. It was a game that I wanted to play for a really long time. I really wanted to enjoy it, and I was absolutely not disappointed by the experience. What I expected was an epic space opera experience with a lot of political conflicts, interpersonal conflicts, and even military conflicts, along with a kind of a emergent narrative, a story emerging from everything that happened in the game. And I absolutely got that. I loved how different each race felt to me. Both playing as one of the races and dealing with other races felt very different. I really enjoyed the interactions we had. I liked how the political phase worked, the technologies. Basically, I liked almost everything about the game. What I didn't like very much about the game was the combat was a little bit fiddly. I wish they kind of gave a little bit more D10s. I thought kind of giving each fighter a role to make was basically bogged down the combat a lot. We did play with an alternate rules, whereas the Imperial card, which is the 8th strategic card, is different. I felt that made the game better, for sure. So I definitely recommend playing with that variant. I think my favorite moment in the game was actually the epic battle between the Isseril tribes and the University of Jolnar at the very end of the last round, because the guy actually told the story, of a sneak attack, a desperate fight, fighters and cruisers and dreadnoughts, and a Warsun coming in and fighting at each other, and tons of fighters going down in flames, then just virus bombing the planet, kind of like a very Warhammer 40,000 Exterminatus kind of thing, followed by this desperate fight on the surface between the invaders and the defenders, and just this heroic last stand, which actually succeeded despite pretty much all odds, really. And that was just an amazing epic moment, which was kind of like the culmination of all the stories that we were creating as players playing together. Would I play it again with 5 players? Yes. Would I play it with more than 5 players? Probably not. I think 5 players, the game went on for about 7 hours. Maybe 6.5, 7 hours, because there were breaks, setup time, and stuff like that. But I felt drained. I absolutely enjoyed the experience. We talked about the game over dinner afterwards. I think we're going to be talking about it for the next few days for sure. It created these amazing memories. But honestly, after 7 hours, I was done. I was wrung out. I was like, you know what? This is an amazing experience. Let's end it here. And it did. And everybody had a wonderful time. I couldn't be happier with how much fun everyone had at the game. I definitely look forward to trying it out with 3 players and 4 players, and hopefully with 5 players again. And I'm definitely picking up both expansions for Twilight Imperium if I can find them for a reasonable price. Anyway, this was kind of our playthrough of Twilight Imperium 3. If you liked this video, if you thought this was a good format, interesting format, something fun to watch, please let me know in the comments below. And if you like whatever content I'm producing, I know I'm producing all sorts of different content, video games, board games, and so on. Please, like, share, and subscribe, or not. Totally up to you. At any rate, let me know in the comments below what board game you'd like to see a playthrough of next, and I'm going to try and do my best to accommodate that. Thank you, and